inaction is the worst thing you can be doing. And that's why when people are overthinking their decisions, being in that state is the worst, right? It's better to take an action that fails or doesn't work out than to just be in a state of inaction. And I think right now we're in early December. Use this month to really reflect on what worked well for you, what didn't work well, and what do you want to bring in to the new year. Alex, it's December and I'm dead. I'm dead. I can't, this has been the longest year, an amazing year. We have sold a company. I had a baby.
How insane. The year started with you having a freaking baby.
I know. And we hadn't sold our company yet. Then we end up getting acquired. You, in the meantime, scale hulking like crazy. And it's just, and you've been traveling. I've been traveling. I'm exhausted. I'm tired. I actually, to be fully transparent, don't want to be on this episode with you right now because I kind of want to take a nap.
We both texted each other like, oh, we have to do this. Let's freaking do it. Because there's a reason why we're so tired. And I always say I burn out twice a year, every June before the school break and every December, because you have all the Q4 milestones you have to rush to. You have the school break that's upcoming. You have all these holidays you have to plan for and all the family stress that comes with it. And you have an entire year's worth of troubles and concerns and questions. And it's just exhausting. I'm tired, Lee. I'm just exhausting. I want to come back to New York in 2 weeks, which is the plan to see you. But I'm freaking tired.
But that's also what's so fun, right? When I know it's exhausting to come fly here to New York, but it's also that
the most fun. I think we're addicted to this pace and this intensity, and that's what makes us both feel alive at the same time, but our bodies are tired. And now we're training for a half marathon. What about that?
Because we're psychopaths. People will always be like, Lee, you've already sold 2 companies. You're not going to do a third one, right? I'm like, obviously we're going to do a third one. We're psychopaths. But Alex, I often say that December, even though we're so tired, it's such a powerful point in this 12-month journey because we can look back and really think about in real time what worked for us this year, what didn't work, and what do we want to do differently in the next year in 2025. And so in a sense, that's why it is so tiring, right? Because there's all this weight of
all this reflection.
Reflection, thinking about there's a lot of things that didn't work. I think the spring was really challenging for us, even though we had that wonderful exit. Oftentimes it's funny, right when you hit that big thing that you've been wanting, it can also be a letdown because then you're thinking, what's next? What do I want? What's going to fulfill me?
I think the soul searching is exhausting, right? Is thinking through what's going to come next. In the midst of this, you were freshly mom of 2, it's a trauma of its own. It's such a major shift that you had to go through. But I think that's why I'm so attached to that yearly exercise that you and I have been doing for close to 10 years at this point. So guys, every January, Lee and I do a reset where we essentially refocus all of our desires and goals for the upcoming year. It's typically a 2 to 3 week challenge that we do, the 2 of us. But we also invite other women to join the movement. So we have a group of about 30 women at this point that do it with us. And, we support each other throughout that process. And the goal is really to understand what we want for the upcoming year, but not just in terms of what that concrete goal is, but also in terms of how that makes us feel. And I think that's why we're such believers in manifestation, because we've realized throughout the years that if you can be clear on how you want to feel rather than what you want to have, then it becomes much easier to set intentions that are achievable through small but actionable steps.
And I think a really powerful element of manifestation for us is beyond, like you said, don't think about the outcome, think about how you want to feel, because really the magic is if you feel how you want to feel once you hit that outcome, right? And I think that's a really powerful thing. When I always say I manifested my husband, he hates it when I say that because he's like, I existed long before you manifested me.
Tell the story.
No, I honestly, I was very much while I was in my early 30s. I really wanted to find a life partner. I ended up going to Barbara, who was on one of our earlier episodes. I really encourage anyone that's exploring the idea of intentional living, manifesting, to listen to that episode. But one of my friends was like, you should go see Barbara. And I went to Barbara and I went in there being like, oh, I want someone X, Y, and Z. And she's like, hold on a second. Let's think about how you want to feel with this person. Don't think about how they look. Don't think about anything else. I want you to do this exercise of how do you feel when they walk in the door after work, right? And sorry, you might hear a little baby in the background, but anyways, ha- l- that was a really interesting shift for me, right? To actually concentrate on how I wanted to feel.
Wait, and what did you say? I need to know. How did you want to feel?
I wanted to feel at peace. I wanted to feel fulfilled. I wanted to feel light. I wanted to feel loved. And what I think is really interesting is that because I was thinking about how I wanted to feel, I could then start feeling those things without that person, right? And I think that is the power of manifestation. You need to think about how do you want to feel, and then you start actively feeling those things long before you've reached whatever milestone you think is necessary to come into your life for you to feel that. I think that's then when you become this magnet. And Alex, I actually think when I tell my friends, like, read Calling in the One, I really recommend that book if you're looking for love. I had gone to Barbara. I also started reading Calling in the One. I have a lot of friends who'll start it. They'll start reading the first and second chapter, but then they stop, right? And it's a 7-week process essentially. And I'm always like, if you all are too lazy to do 20 minutes of this book a day, then you're not ready to actually call in the one. Because if you can't do the work, then don't say you really want it. And I think that's what people forget about manifestation. It's not magic. It requires intentional steps, an intentional way of living.
And that's why we do this exercise, right? Because we know that it takes work. And the whole point of that yearly reset is that you can not only set your desire and what you're really manifesting into the universe, but you're also setting those steps. Like, what am I going to do in January? What am I going to do the rest of this year to actually reach that goal? And it can be very small things. If you're launching a business, it can be as small as call your parents, tell them your idea, share it with a friend, book a coffee date with someone in your industry. It doesn't need to be those massive milestones, but those smaller action items actually make you feel so empowered and take you closer to that goal.
And when I think about it, it's somewhat like us manifesting that we run a half marathon. We aren't like, we are going to now be runners, right? No, we have to work backwards, right? We have to start doing running and working out today, right? If we want to run that half marathon in April.
And how did we start? We started with a 10-minute run.
Exactly.
And that's how bad of runners we are.
And
just 10 minutes, and we were exhausting, and it was so painful, right? It was awful.
Exactly.
So that's how small of a step you can take.
And so I think that's for the listeners on this call right now who are thinking about manifestation and being like, that's not my cup of tea. I don't subscribe to this woo-woo stuff. This isn't woo-woo. This is about understanding specifically, how do you want to feel in 2025? Okay. And then thinking about what are those milestones that you would need to accomplish to feel that way. And then think about those little steps. I'm talking about small steps. It doesn't have to be a big step. It's about doing a little step every single day. And that's where I go back to my friends who are like, I want to find a husband. And I'm like, hey, read Calling in the One. And then I check in on them like 2 weeks into it. And they're like, oh, I started it, but then life got a little bit busy, da da da. But if you're spending 10 minutes scrolling on Instagram, but you don't have 10 minutes to do a small step towards that goal, then you're not going to get it. And it means you don't really want it bad enough, right? Because everyone has 10 minutes. Everyone has 20 minutes a day to do something towards that goal of theirs. And again, it can be a small step. And people are often like, how does Alex have 3 kids, build multiple businesses, has a $20 million plus brand, and still manages to travel? It's because you know you can spend 10 minutes doing this, 20 minutes doing that, It doesn't have to be big steps, but you do small steps every single day towards your goals.
Yeah, that's very true. And let's talk about the power of the mind a little bit because there's actual science behind this, but we've used it very successfully, the two of us. So Lee and I, we actually started manifesting about 10 years ago, like I said, with our very first company, Ivy. And at the time, Ivy was, our first business. We didn't really know what we were doing, but the company was growing really nicely. We were at this crossroad. Are we going to raise more funds? Clearly, we're getting a lot of interest from investors. Or is there another path for us? But Lee and I actually intentionally started manifesting around selling the company and getting acquired. And we also saw Barbara together and we started ping ponging all this energy around a potential acquisition. And there's so much powerful energy that goes into manifesting. We started really feeling as if we were acquired, exited founders, right? And I think through that, it taught us the power of energy and how by radiating this specific energy around that acquisition, we actually led us to eventually getting an outreach from our acquirer. But we never stopped, right? Not 1 second we stopped exuding this powerful, radiant energy because we knew that if we felt it, both of us, it can really, really lead us somewhere. And that's actually when one day we got a LinkedIn message for a biz dev request, right? And we'll always say, never miss a LinkedIn message, guys, because there's might be an acquirer there. But through that, by doing it together, I think it's very important, right? And that's why we have this community of manifestors that does the yearly reset with us every January, because there's so much power in doing it as a group. And I would recommend anyone on here, if you're interested in what we're saying, actually do reach out because we plan on doing that this January with something very special, actually, that we've crafted and designed specifically around launching a work project, launching a business. So don't hesitate to reach out.
And also, Alex, we actually started this whole the belief in how powerful thinking and mindset is even before Barbara. If you recall, when we were having to do that pitch for NFX and we were going to have to get on stage and we both hate public speaking. And so we were like, oh my goodness, what are we going to do? We sought out we used Google search to find a hypnotist in San Francisco. And we ended up going through that process. And even that process of hypnotism, which sounds ridiculous, is essentially, it just gave us the confidence that we're like, oh, we were hypnotized. We can now do this. Even though the only shift was believing that we can.
It's
the
mindset.
The same thing with the mindset of feeling how you want, right? We started when we thought hey, maybe we want to be acquired, right? We started feeling the excitement, the energy, the belief, and it shifts everything. It makes you a magnet.
And we went into as much detail as we know exactly which restaurant we're going to go to the day that we sign. We know exactly what drink we're going to order. And this is how it's going to feel. We're going to look at each other. Our partners are going to be next to us. And we're going to feel so happy, so fulfilled, and so proud. So don't hold back on details, right? Where are you when you're reaching that goal? How does it feel? What are you wearing? What are you drinking? Those details make a difference in actually making it concrete in your head of how are you feeling.
And it's it doesn't oftentimes when I'm in this process of manifesting, I'll often have this seeking, I don't know, this little thing that seeps into me that's that's not going to happen. It's going to be a failure. You're manifesting this beautiful outcome and this beautiful feeling. It's going to be the opposite, right? I often will have this little voice of doubt whispering in my ear, but that's where I do the exercise being listen, fear, I hear you, but that's not going to happen. And I use my positive mindset to be I speak in present tense, right? I am calm, I am successful, I am fulfilled, and I essentially will outspeak that voice of doubt, right? Even when I think about what me and Alex are working on next, I'm often there's no way that I'll be so lucky that I have a third thing that is successful. No way, it's going to be a failure. It's going to be this. And then I say, nope. And I then outspeak it. I outspeak that doubt.
I think speaking to your doubt, but also visualizing it a lot of times. And that's what the hypnotist in San Francisco actually taught us. You going down the stairs and taking the doubt, taking the fear physically out of your body, grabbing it with your hand and in your mind, just throwing it out, either putting it in the garbage, throwing it out in the water, just the mental exercise and visualization around that, which we do a lot of, is so powerful.
Completely. And one thing that during the process of doing these groups with other women that want to manifest the year of their dreams, essentially, is that I do think when people are really clear, like very specific on what they want, that is when the magic happens. And Barbara, I think back to our episode with her when she was saying, you have to make sure what you are manifesting is what you want and not what society wants. Because I think that's another important thing. Because you might think, oh, I should want that, right? Or I should want this. But if really your gut is telling you that's not what you want, they're gonna hit back. You're not gonna actually get that. So make sure whatever you're manifesting, you're very, very clear with how you feel. You're very precise on what are those milestones that would make you feel that way. And you're very specific with what are those small intentional steps that you can take every single day to head in that direction.
Yeah, so you've manifested Zach, your husband. We've manifested 2 acquisitions. And I think that the last acquisition in particular was a bit of a whirlwind. We got a term sheet, which was very exciting. And then our potential acquirers vanished from the face of the earth. Like overnight, no news, couldn't reach them. We didn't know what happened.
I just had a baby.
Which was very stressful. And Lee at this point was about to gave birth. And then what followed required so much action-driven energy from us, right? Because we're like, okay, Lee, the CEO of the company, just had a baby. Our initial acquirer disappeared. And now what do we do? We're going to run out of money. Like, it's not an easy thing. We were in a very bad situation at that point in time. And so through, first of all, intention setting and still understanding where we wanted to go, because we could have, gone back to our investors and say, listen, let's do a bridge round. Let's keep on going. But we knew we wanted that acquisition so badly. And I remember when you had just had Henrietta, literally within a week or two, started reaching out to people on LinkedIn, literally just DMing them, like all the competitors,
literally like just massive companies. Didn't think they would reply, but they did.
If you need a template for how to do outreach on LinkedIn, ask Lee, because she's the pro. So here she is with a newborn, just casually texting people on LinkedIn, all the competitors in the space that would be a potential fit for us, basically letting them know, listen, we got an offer. We have a term sheet on the table. Do you want to talk? And listen to this. 1 or 2 months in, we ended up with not 1, but 3 offers on the table. And again, it's not that we just manifested and just slept all day and did nothing. We manifested this. We put all of our intention and energy towards this goal, and we took steps. It started with a LinkedIn message, and then it followed with a lot of hard work figuring out who is the best acquirer, what do we want out of this. And navigating this process is a very tricky one, but we did it because we were focused on where we were headed.
And I do think just the mindset of it allowed us to have stamina. So I think a lot of times when you're building your own company and even just going through life, right, you need to have stamina. And I think manifesting gives you the confidence that things will work out, right? That if you believe things will work out, it gives you more stamina to keep on pushing. And in that process, right, Alex, this is why I'm so tired right now, I realize, is because I've been nonstop since the beginning of the year, starting with literally cold messaging people on LinkedIn after that no shop expired with that term sheet. But anyways, how we had that stamina to keep going is that Alex and I and Omri knew we would get acquired and knew we'd be happy with it. We knew that in our inner being. So we're like, we need to do the work to make that a reality. So again, like you're listening to this, make it like embrace manifestation, but understand what manifestation is essentially a roadmap for you to be intentional with the steps that you take towards the direction that you want to go. It's not to sit around on your bottom. So again, if you're like, hey, Lee, I want to find a husband who makes me so happy and fulfilled, then do work 10 minutes a day, 20 minutes a day. Start feeling happy today. Don't wait until that moment. And I think that's the most important. Same thing with starting a business, right? A lot of times people are like in this phase of brainstorming this business that they want to build. Go do a small little thing every single day that takes you a little bit closer to that business idea, even if you have a job. And you're working on something else. Even if you're pregnant and you have another kid, you have 10 minutes. Do it while you're sitting on the potty for all I care. Like, seriously, you instead of scrolling on Instagram, use that time.
Create an Instagram account. Create an Instagram account for your brands.
The next time you're on the potty, I want you to hear me. And yes, I have 2 kids. I call it the potty. The next time you're on the potty, instead of Instagramming, I want you to hear my voice being like, stop Instagramming and do something that's bringing your life forward.
Well, I think you all understand now why I'm such a fan of manifesting. I have Lee's voice all day long in my head, basically telling me, take the step. That's how we're doing it, though. But again, like the dynamic and doing it with other people is incredibly powerful, and I recommend it. Doing anything in silo is just not nearly as interesting. So join a community, do it with a friend, encourage each other, like lead text each other's, we text each other our running every day, because I know if I don't, I'm not accountable for it, and just helps me and motivates me. And I also share the doubts, right? It's not just about, oh my God, everything is wonderful. There's a lot of doubt and fear that comes into it. And it's just about learning as much, like I always think of my own kids that are learning how to express frustration and how to express tiredness and fatigue. But we also have to learn how to deal with our own self-doubt and our own fear around taking steps forward.
And the one other thing I would like to say is that you should spend time doing things that make you feel how you want to feel, right? When you manifest. So, for instance, if you want to feel energized with your partner, go do something that makes you feel energized today, right? Maybe that's tennis, maybe that's surfing, maybe whatever that is, but start doing things that make you feel that emotion. So if you want to start a business and you don't even know what that business is yet, but you're feeling like really stale and just like bleh in your current work stuff, go do something that makes you feel alive. Go take an art class, go do a little project, but start, because when you start feeling how you want to feel, you're going to start feeling it more and more, right? Like attracts like. And that's another thing. Like Alex and I work really hard. Like we both hold each other accountable to not focus so much on the negative, because then that attracts more of it. I'm actually a much more negative person than Alex. Alex will always be like, get out of that. Like, stop saying that. And because if you're focusing on the negative, you're going to start seeing much more of it. But if you're out there trying to run a half marathon or go play tennis and you feel energized and happy, you're going to start welcoming many more of those moments into your life, even without you paying attention to that. So make time for yourself outside of even the track of what you want to do.
Yeah, like attract like. That is so true. That's why they say you often find your life partner when you have another partner. Like I hear that all the time. How did you meet? Oh, I met, he had someone, I had someone, and then somehow they found each other again.
You had this
And
crazy affair.
no, without having an affair, it just so happens that when you're in a relationship, you actually end up meeting more people and attracting more people.
Yeah.
And
Because
likewise
you're not
with
desperate.
work.
No one
Likewise
wants
with
someone
work, we
who's
were just talking about it last week, right, Lee? Like how actually going back to work for some people is a great way to start motivating themselves and being more actionable towards their next project and their next business potentially,
Absolutely.
as opposed to just doing nothing. I think the inaction is actually the enemy here. You constantly have to be moving, constantly have to be feeling how you want to feel in order to reach that goal.
You constantly have to be doing, right? Doing things like doing it. I think you're so right, Alex. Inaction is the worst thing you can be doing. And that's why when people are overthinking their decisions, being in that state is the worst, right? It's better to take an action that that fails or doesn't work out than to just be in a state of inaction. And I think to wrap this up essentially is right now we're in early December. Use this month to really reflect on what worked well for you, what didn't work well, and what do you want to bring in to the new year, right? Who do you want to become in 2025? And then come January, Alex and I are going to be running this really exciting project where we will be manifesting with all of you and making very concerted, intentional efforts towards building the life that we want and you want. And I'm really excited to widen this group, Alex, and to do it our post network.
Yeah, same. There's so much power from it. I think that we also learned a lot throughout the years what makes a good manifestation versus a bad one, right? And we found out that a lot of women that were joining our group were manifesting, including ourselves, were manifesting things like feeling fulfilled and feeling happy. But these are actually too vague. So I think as you're thinking throughout December, like Lee said, on what has worked for you and what hasn't in this past year, think very clearly on what are very actionable things that make you feel a certain way. So if you have a financial goal, maybe it's an actual number. That's how clear you have to be on what that goal is. If it's meeting someone, just think about that person. How do they carry themselves? Like, where do they live? What do they like? How do they make you feel? So go into a lot of detail around what you think will make 2025 your best year yet. And then you'll join us in January for our first ever unfinished business manifestation challenge. We're very excited about it. And we'll take it from there.
Yeah, and I really do believe that when you are clear with what you want and you know what you want and you know how to feel, you will get it, right? I really believe that. But you have to do the work, and that work can just be 10 minutes a day.
So here's how you can all get involved right now. Just drop a comment with the word manifest, and we'll send you a private DM with a link to join our private Slack community so you can manifest with us and get all our tools to start 2025 on the right foot.
Thank you for listening. I'm really excited to end this year with all of you and soon kick off 2025. So let's go.
Let's go.